Well, guys, I show 7 o'clock. Cameraman, you ready? So open the meeting with the pledge and we'll get into our business, but if you all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome, everybody.
I should text Patrick.
I think we have some people arriving late en masse. Pardon me?
What's with that?
We'll explain. Good evening, good evening.
Fire department coming out for a budget presentation, huh?
Yeah, right, big crowd. Welcome, Red Hook Fire Department. Everybody seated. We just opened a meeting with the pledge to the flag, so you missed that part. But tonight we have some special guests, but before that we'll do a little intro business just to get the record straight. Welcome to the May 8th, 2017 Village Board meeting. We've got the whole contingent here tonight and we have a fair amount of work to do. It looks like we have a special group that just walked in, and we'll see. We'll give you folks either an opportunity to talk early in the meeting, or if you wanted to stay for the whole thing, you're fine. Welcome to that too. But right now, why don't we just grab and do our acceptance of minutes and so forth. So one piece of business, you do have to use this mic, so you're directly on the camera. So when I'm done with it here, we're mic'd here, but anybody that wants to talk is welcome to speak, but you do have to speak into the microphone. So let me set up here for a second. And do you have the minutes out, you folks? So let's see, it looks like we had a meeting April 10th, April 20th. I've gone through them and reviewed them. Does anybody else have any additions, alterations, or corrections? Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you'll see in the minutes section there, we did lose a village resident about 4 weeks ago, Mrs. Virginia Melly. Her husband had passed away, maybe predeceased her by about a year. And it's our custom for village residents to leave one blank page in our minutes from this meeting in their honor and their memory. So I would entertain that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Many of us knew her. She kept us on our toes a lot. And but she was, I don't know how many years she lived here, but I would say multiple years. But she was a great person to work with, and we'll miss her here in the village. That being said, this is May, and it's school board election and school board budget season, as well as library budget season. So usually what we do is we welcome representatives of the Red Hook School Board. Well, I guess in this case, it's really the Red Hook School Administration, and then members of the library board and their administrators for a brief presentation. It's more for us to hear as the board and the elected folks that represent the village. It also gets it out on Panda, and they've hit other stops across the jurisdiction, ranging from Milan, Claremont, and different places. But it's worth it for us to hear. Those that have been here a while know what it is, but we'd welcome them. Paul Finch and Bruce Martin, if you want to go first and speak to the board. But I will give you this mic so you can be properly heard on Panda.
Thanks for having us. I will be brief. I like to start with the bottom line. We're under the tax cap. So people there's like a relief when people hear that. I'll give you some of the detail just quickly. Budget to budget expenditure increase this year of 1.82% and a tax levy increase of 2.35%. Some taxpayers, Bruce is better than I at understanding this. Some taxpayers will get some of that increase back. The state has changed the mechanism that they refund taxpayers for the increase they experience. So it's a sort of a set amount depending on where you fall with your star rebate and income threshold. So some people will even get that 2.35% or portion of it back. This year, Bruce likes to say, and I agree with him, that it was a quietly difficult budget year for us. And really, 2 words: health insurance. Our health insurance for district employees went up 16%, which in our budget is about $1.4 million. So we had to close that gap in addition to the other gaps that naturally occur in the budget. And how we did that was we took some health insurance accrual that we have, so it's basically a reserve for health insurance purposes. Took $600,000 of that. We are eliminating one sixth grade position through attrition in October, so that'll help. We realized some state aid, an increase in state aid. It's never as much as they advertise. I just want everyone to know it's never as much as they advertise because they always high-side it. But that did help. And the teachers' retirement system costs have come down, so that helped us to close the gap and roll over the opportunities that we had for kids this year into next year. We're real excited about that. I thought before Bruce gives you the dirty details, I'd share some of the exciting things that happened this past year. We had our second year of pre-K class. We have approximately 18 students in there, and by all accounts, it seems to be going really well. The students that went from pre-K last year into kindergarten are doing very well. Now, these are students that we really targeted based on income, parents that could were placed out of Head Start and couldn't afford regular daycare or any kind of pre-K experience. We try to target right in there, and that's where we're aiming, and we seem to be having great success with the kids. Our day expanded from a half day to 2/3 of a day, so we expanded a little bit this year. I'd like to go full day with the kids next year if possible. Our K2 building has an intergenerational sharing program. Some of you may have heard this before. They've got, bless you, they have senior citizens coming in to share talents with kids, and it's a great opportunity for all of our kids. We have an extra, our new program called, well, it's for our ELL learners, or English language learners. It's through an organization called Culture Connect. You may be familiar with them. They've been in Rhinebeck for almost a decade or more, I think. And they come in and they help our ELL kids with getting their homework done after school and socializing and learning more about the English language in that social context. So we've been real happy with that, and that spans K-5. At the middle school, we redeployed part of a teacher this past year to work solely on technology integration, and she's been focusing on digital publishing. And one really exciting project that I know that she did with teachers was this project on local slavery. And if you go back into Dutchess County history, there's a lot of that, and the kids are learning a lot about that. Each of them taking a particular individual. At the high school, we have a new principal. Roy Paisley retired last year, so we're happy to welcome Phil Campbell. One of the nice things about having somebody new is that they ask questions like, why are we doing this this way? And so it gets us to reflect on what we're doing and how we can do it better. And Phil's doing a lot of that in establishing positive relationships, and we're happy to have him. He's sort of new in the sense that he's coming back to Red Hook after having been away for better part of 2 decades probably. Also, if you pay attention to the Poughkeepsie Journal, we had an article recently about our Robo Raiders robotics club. It's like the little club that could. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. And it really goes to the fact that when you have a passionate adult teacher working with kids, amazing things can happen, because Yvonne Pierce and Dwayne Decker have done amazing things with this relatively small club that's really just hot. They went to the World Championships and won an award at the World Championships, and they've only been in existence for, I want to say, 5 years maybe, something like that. We also hosted NYSMA, that's a music festival, for the first time this past weekend, and our Model UN is doing really amazing things too. So there's lots going on in Red Hook, all good stuff. It's not to say we don't have work to do. We obviously have work to do, but I wanted to share some of that with you.
So Paul actually does a pretty good job of giving you the budget summary. And it really did come down to health insurance, a little bit of savings on the retirement system, and us squeezing the budget a little bit and going to some one-time money to make it all balance out. One-time money is difficult, though, because you have to plan on it disappearing eventually. So we will be weaning ourselves off of what is essentially a budgetary subsidy toward health insurance over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. In order to make it all get back in line once that one-time money is all gone. In terms of the budget vote itself, it's coming up on the third Tuesday of May, which is just next week, a week from tomorrow. And all around the state, everybody, all the school districts will be voting on that same day, May 16th. In Red Hook, we will vote from noon until 9 p.m., and that will happen in the 3-5 cafeteria at the Mill Road School. If you are speaking to anyone who would like to come and vote that day, they do have to be registered. So you can be registered either through the regular general election process. If you vote in the general election and you're on those rolls, you're eligible to vote in the school district election. But if you're speaking to someone in the next couple of days who wants to vote on the 16th, we do have a school-only voter registration that happens on Wednesday, May 10th, the day after tomorrow. That happens from noon until 9 p.m. in the lobby of the Mill Road 3-5 school. And you can go in that day, get registered to vote in the school election, and then vote next Tuesday. On the ballot on the 16th, there are some things beyond the budget that Paul just described. We have our annual bus and vehicle proposition. It's a hair higher this year at $330,000. It's been running in the high $200,000 range the last couple of years. If that's approved, it would allow us to buy 2 new full-size propane buses, a handicap wheelchair van, and a Ford Expedition for those trips where we only have 1 or 2 students at a time. The propane buses have been highly spoken of by our maintenance department, our mechanics, who take care of them. They say they're easier to care for, less expensive to care for, and to maintain. And those buses are all replacements. We try to go on a 10-year replacement cycle. We usually don't quite keep up with that. It usually takes us a little longer than 10 years before we can retire a vehicle, but that's the objective. We also have a board election happening. We have 2 seats that come to the end of their term on June 30th of this year, and so one of those candidates is going to run again, and that's Dawn Morrison. One of those board members is not going to run again. That's Ryan McCann. So on the ballot will be Gretchen Werner, Lauren Rose, Dawn Morrison, and Jennifer Munn. So 4 candidates all running for those 2 available seats, 3-year terms on the Board of Education. The Red Hook Public Library has a proposition on the ballot, and they're here this evening. They'll say a few words to you. And we also have, sitting at our board table, we have a student board member. We've had that for, I'm going to say, about 10 years. It adds a very nice perspective to some of the discussions that we have at the board table. But that student board member has to be reauthorized by the voters every other year, and this is the year that that happens. So all of that's happening from noon to 9, the budget vote on May 16th, next Tuesday, at the Mill Road School in the 3-5 cafeteria.
One of the common questions is what's happening with enrollment. So I'll just tell you, it's the first time since 2006 that I can remember that enrollment has actually gone up. And it's not our kindergarten class, or folks moving in with older school-age children. So high school, middle school. Kindergarten seems pretty stable, 125, 130 in there. Questions?
I had one, when you said the levy's going up 2.35%, isn't the cap dancing around 1.15? What are you taking some retro credits, or what are you doing there?
There really are 3 things that impact the tax cap calculation primarily. Our CPI number was, if I'm remembering correctly, 1.26%. There is a tax-based growth factor, which is the real assessed, not just assessment changes, but real building and additions and the like around the district. That number was just over 0.8%. So those 2 things together would have put our tax cap just a hair over 2%. The other thing happening is in the ensuing year, in next year's budget, our capital exclusion, which is for the local share of capital costs, is just slightly higher than it was this year, and that accounts for the other 1/3% or so, putting our cap at the 2.35.
So your tax base, because you're in Milan, Claremont, where else are you, Livingston? So
Just a little bit of Rhinebeck, actually.
Because we saw our tax base go up a little bit, so you're seeing it probably
It's
in a
a
bigger sense.
eighth of a percent.
0.8.
Yep.
Yeah.
On what, almost $1.5 billion, or what's, yeah. mm. Any other questions?
Well, you're going to have to excuse us because we have another presentation.
Well, that's
right
fine,
after
we
this,
expect
so-
that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for your help.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. We could transition to library, please. So Dawn, if you want to introduce yourself, and Amy.
Hi, all. My name is Dawn. This is Amy Houston. She's our newest board member at the library and one of our neighbors here in the village. It's really great to see like the whole fire department here. That's kind of cool. And a little bit embarrassing, actually, because of that time that I started a fire in the fireplace and the flue was closed. But other than that, it's great to see you guys. So our little library across the street is a really busy place, as a lot of you know. And because of the volume of activity at our library, circulation, visits, programming, attendees at programs that we do for our size, we're actually ranked in about the top 1% of the country. So that's kind of a cool thing for Red Hook. And as a result, in the past 5 years, we've had this immense amount of growth at the library. And we're struggling to keep up with it. And by growth, I mean not only circulation and space and traffic in the library, but programming. The community wants programming. Two things in specific they've asked us for are cultural programming and STEM programming. And so we've increased both a lot. So as a result now we are doing science programs for 2-year-olds. And we're doing science for seniors and everybody in between. And we are doing more and more cultural programs like Diwali, Hispanic Heritage Month. We're thinking about Chinese New Year next year, so you never know. So our programming has changed a lot. In fact, it's even gone outside of the library building because, of course, the library building is a little bit limited in space, so that now we're doing programming at Red Hook Commons. We're doing programming in local businesses. We're doing programming at the community center and on the lawn of the middle school. And we're pretty much willing to go anywhere that you need us to come and present something. We do our pop-up library in the summer. Last year was the first summer that we went around about 5 times during the summer. We loaded up a barred van with books and projects and went to 3 different locations in the area. We did this with Mill Road School and with Bard CCE to kind of combat summer slide and keep kids interested in learning over the summer. This year we're actually expanding that to twice a week. So you'll see us at Holy Cow and you'll see us at the rec park, and there's also some strategic locations in the area where we're going to drop off some free books. And most of our programming we achieve through collaboration with other organizations in Red Hook and through just sort of the passion and ingenuity of our staff. Whereas other libraries, especially larger libraries, just hire people. They hire puppeteers and they hire speakers and all kinds of professional people, and we really don't do a whole lot of that. We mostly are using the talents of staff because we have a really diverse staff. We have scientists and we have historians and psychologists and all kinds of things. That said, we can only ask staff to do so much, and because I care very much about them, I don't want them to fix the roof. And although they're very good at, fixing the towel dispensers and changing light bulbs and things like that, they probably can't really take apart the front porch and fix that either. So our costs are increasing. There's repairs we need to make to the building, which you may not know is 152 years old. Plus, all of our other costs keep increasing. The system costs keep increasing. Patrons increasingly want ebooks, which you may not know this, but buying ebooks for a library is not like buying ebooks for your Kindle. If you buy an ebook for your Kindle, it's less expensive than the paper book. But when you buy an ebook for a library, the average cost is $65. It's about 4 times as much than a paper book. So all these different kinds of expenses are increasing for us, and that's why, and then there's health insurance, like Paul Finch said. A good deal of this increase would go to health insurance for us as well. There's 14 employees now, 4 are full-time, and 2 require health insurance. So we're asking for a 5.87% increase in our budget, which for the average homeowner in the district is about $3.55 more per year. Any questions? No?
Is Tivoli asking for money as well?
Not this year.
Not this year, okay.
No. That's all. Thank you.
Well, I had a question. So when you talked about a 5.7, you talking about a roof and physical things you're going to do to the building, or what?
A lot of that money will go towards, some of it will go towards health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it, yes, will go into the building. Some of it will go to the system. So all those costs that I talk about that are increasing, that's what it will be spent on.
Can you explain how do people approve or not approve of that? Could you explain? It's on the ballot, is what you're saying? Does it have a
It's a separate thing on
separate
the
line?
ballot.
Could you just
Oh,
describe?
I'm sorry, I thought Bruce had mentioned, it's Proposition 3 on the school district ballot, which is Tuesday, right? The 16th, a week from tomorrow, on the school district ballot, Proposition 3, yes. So it's actually a district tax, it's not a village tax, it's for the whole school district.
Thank you. Any other
Yeah.
questions? Board, okay? Thank you, library people.
Thanks.
Let's see what we could do here. We have captive audience of sorts. We have regular business. I don't know if the fire company has a preference. Generally, if there's a particular special interest group that comes to a meeting, we're flexible enough where we could listen and talk with you folks first in like a public comment session. Or you're welcome, usually public comment is at the end, which can be it could be an hour and 45 minutes from now. I think most of you, I'd rather have you either home or on call or whatever you have to do. I see some heads nodding yes. My glasses for reading, I have to take them off. Does that please the board if we do that? We'll break out of sequence. We have our regulars in the back too there. They tend to stay the whole meeting, and they could they'll listen to the entire meeting content, and we'll do another public comment later to the regulars back there. That being said, we're wrapping up our fiscal year, and I could give a little intro. We were in discussions with Red Hook Fire Company for fire contract, we call it. The board is familiar. We've had multiple workshop sessions. I don't want to go into too much detail right now, but is there a presentation you want to make, or do you want to just have a dialogue, or would you like to do? If you could, Rob, just identify who you are, and like we said, the mic is not so much for our room, but it gets a better voice on Panda.
So my name is Robert Fry. I'm a resident of the town of Red Hook. The Red Hook Fire Company is here tonight to express our displeasure with the failure of the mayor and the board to finalize the village and fire company contract, which has been expired since May 30th, 2016. As you know, the Red Hook Fire Company has conceded in multiple contracts to accept 0% increases from the village board, even though they have continued to raise taxes. In 2016, our volunteer members spent over 5,000 hours responding to fire and EMS calls, and over 10,000 hours in training and completing administrative functions. In total, we responded to 894 calls in 2016, providing unconditional fire service 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We were completely surprised with the recent letter from the village's attorney that discussed the current structure that we are working within. We simply desire a contract that will enable us to maintain the appropriate level of service for the residents of Red Hook. The village's current position fails to meet that objective. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Good evening. My name is Robert Stride. I'm a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
Hello, my name is Sean Ball. I'm a village resident. I am a member of the Red Hook Fire Company. The volunteer members of the Red Hook Fire Company last year responded to put over 15,000 hours protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
My name is James Williams. I'm a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and the town of Red Hook.
My name is Kristen McGilvery. I am a volunteer member of the Red Oak Fire Company. This last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of services protecting the village and the town of Red Hook.
Good evening. My name is Michael Kukel, and I am a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Gemmel. I'm a resident of the village of Red Hook, and I'm a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and the town of Red Hook. Thank you.
My name is Jordan Ball, and I am a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
My name is Manny Villa. I just moved to the village of Red Hook about a year ago. I started volunteering in the Red Hook Fire Company. My fellow firemen have given about 1,500 hours worth of training. 15,000?
You're a new guy. We'll give you another zero on the end. Thanks for volunteering there, Manny.
My name is Katie Drummond, and I am a village resident, and I am a volunteer member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
Hello, my name is Keith McGilvery, and I'm a member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
Hello, my name is Jeff Scott. I'm a new member of the Red Hook Fire Department, and I'm a volunteer member Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and the town of Red Hook.
My name is Fred Cartier. I'm the chaplain of the fire company, and I have been a volunteer member of this company for about 35, 40 years. Last year, my fellow volunteers and I provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and the town of Red Hook. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Bogue. I'm a resident of the village of Red Hook, and I am a member of the Red Hook Fire Company. Last year, my fellow volunteers provided over 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and the town of Red Hook 24/7, 365 days a year. Thank you.
My name is Gary Kuhn, live in the village, lived in Red Hook my entire life. 44 years as an active member. And myself and my other volunteers, I provide 15,000 hours of service protecting the village and town of Red Hook.
My name is Stephen Fell, Chief of the Red Hook Fire Company. I live in the town of Red Hook, and my members, who I'm very proud of, provided 15,000 hours of service in the last year, and I'd like to keep it going that way. Thank you.
All right. Well, I see some folks left. Thanks for the presentation. We could react a little bit if some, do you want to see some are lingering? And I think it'd be important to say, my name's Ed Blundell. I'm the mayor of the village of Red Hook, to follow your format. And we're elected on behalf of the 2,000 folks that reap the benefits of your service. And believe me, we've had some causes to thank you greatly for that. I think the membership, I hope, is aware of the fact that negotiations are underway, and there is a reason for what I would call the impasse. As a matter of fact, we pay about $105,000 per year to the fire company. On top of that, we buy the workers' comp insurance, which is about $70,000 plus or minus, depending on if folks get hurt or not in a given year. And after that, we pay the LOSAP benefits, which is a great and a thing we totally support. That's a retirement type plan for volunteer firemen. The key word is it's volunteer. We all know that Red Hook is growing, and we all know, if you heard the school board present and us present, the board members you have here, Rob Fry and Rob Stribe, both are aware that certain things I think we need to straighten out on the record. When I took office, this village actually back owed the fire company money. I don't know if you all recall that. There was a point in time where the village was not able to and could not or did not pay its full share. Under my administration, we corrected that, and with the contracts that we had in past years, over a 4-year period, we made that up, and that is paid off as of last year. As far as tax caps, the village, we do have a fiduciary responsibility. We have to protect our residents and financially protect them. We do look at tax cap, and for those folks that have not been in the negotiations, the prior year we had the great benefit of having a 0.12% tax cap, which meant we had about $1,100 or $1,200 new dollars to work with last year. The prior year was 0.68%, which is still minuscule money in the scheme of things. We do thank the fire company, and they did recognize in prior contract years that holding it flat worked. It's our position, our opinion, that the fire company does have a more substantial fund balance than the village had, and even to this day has. So this board, it's not just one mayor or one board member. We have asked the fire company for data. We've gotten it, and we've been analyzing it. As a matter of fact, last week we had a meeting set up to continue the negotiations, but on behalf of the fire company, that was called off. We're looking for a new date. We continue to pay and honor the current contract. It's not like we're withholding money, and that would never be our intention. what's a thorn in this board side is that the town contracts separately, and they have been granted a 4% one-time bump, which if you take it over a 2-year contract is 2% a year. The initial presentation to this board, the village board, was 10% year 1 and 5% year 2, which just didn't seem fair in our opinion. So we've been going back and forth. We came to some numbers that were close, but there are some non-monetary things that are in play right now. One is we'd like to team up and sync up with the town so all negotiations happen at the same time instead of two parties arguing and negotiating different amounts with each other. But unfortunately, as a result of the impasse, we did some more research, and that was the nature of the letter that I think Rob Stride mentioned. We need to sit with the fire company, its main people, and its lawyer, with our lawyer, and reestablish the proper relationship between the parties. Somehow it's gotten out of hand, and in no way do we mean it to be critical of you guys. We just have to correct it. And I don't know if any other board members have any input, but I wouldn't want the public or those in the audience to think we're just sitting here, sitting on our hands. It's not the case. We have made offers. They've been rejected. And in the end, I think the brotherhood of firefighters have to know the whole story, and I just hope it happens that it transplants or transfers from the sessions through. It's a little bit tough in any contract. Like last week I sat with the police union, and they have a paid rep who sits and deals and negotiates. It's a little bit different. Police are our employees. The volunteer firemen are not our employees. They're the most dedicated folks this area has, whether it's Red Hook or anywhere. And we always know that whether it's 2 in the morning, whatever, you guys will jump through broken glass into Fleming buildings and rescue our residents, and we need that. We have to have that. But we struggle with the finances ourselves, and it's just, we're not trying to be cheap. I really think it has to be equitable between the town and us, and we are looking at, we have data from you guys. We recomputed, as a matter of fact, today I sent the board some recomputed data from the sheets you gave us a while back. We're trying to isolate out what percentage of fire calls we're talking about versus EMS calls that occur in the village. And that's one dilemma. All of you might know, and the audience too, the county just ran a big detailed EMS survey. I don't know if you guys have had the benefit of going to any of those meetings, but EMS means the ambulance side of fire protection, not the firefighting side. And it looks at inability to respond and things that are dreadfully important to ambulance and more so for fire company. It's in my opinion, Red Hook's fortunate. We have NDP, that's a private ambulance company around here, and we're close to Northern Dutchess Hospital, so we don't have the same threat to our residents that other places have. But I think it's important to note for everybody in the board and the public that the fire contract does not include ambulance protection, and it won't be. We've brought that up to the fire company in the past, and it's just something they can't contract for. It seems the premise is that the ambulance is available, but primarily to help any injured firefighter on the scene of a fire, is the way I understand it to be. So we're not actually contracting, we're just really working on fire protection. That's the wording of the contract when you look at it. And a bigger issue has arisen, like I mentioned before, to talk amicably with the lawyers, and even without them, what the relationship is between the Village of Red Hook under Article 10 of Village Law and its fire company. And it's something we have to look at in detail, and I think that'd be our next meeting, as well as negotiating the deal. But it's there'll be a perspective where we're sitting right now. But I know Jay, he sits with me in the negotiations, and we take it to the board in workshop form. But I would entertain any input from the board or from anybody out from the fire company there. That being said, I think even a day or two ago, we looked to set up another meeting, and it's our intention to meet, show specifically what we're talking about. You mentioned, I think the last offer, we were trying to sync it up with town negotiation time, and we can show you, I think it's better shown in more negotiation session, what we're talking about with regard to Article 10 of the village law. And it would show how the town, the village, and the fire company, in my opinion, can work better together. And there's a format for doing it. And we do look at the numbers, and we do, in our village, again, for the public, tax caps come up. And in the past, it was just a tax cap, but then if you all remember, the state of New York did a tax freeze credit where it essentially was psychological and financial pressure to keep the municipalities holding to the cap, and then therefore their residents would get a tax rebate. And this board took that seriously, and in negotiations with everybody, fire, police, staff, who else do we deal with? We're always looking at, we have a limited amount of money we can charge the taxpayer, and fire company is huge prime concentration of ours, but it's in the overall budget. And to be upfront with you, we have budgeted, we passed our budget, what, a month ago, whatever, when was the last meeting? We are in a negotiating stance, and I think, I'm optimistic, and I think, I'm glad you came in, and I half expected it last month, but I saw it this month, but our stance would be, Fry and Stribe are pretty good representatives, and I think if that's the case, we'll keep talking to them or anybody else, but that's the point people we've been dealing with. That being said, unless there's any comment, we would thank you for coming. Thank you for what you do, and I know we have Apple Blossom Day in a couple days, and then I don't know if you're there in any formal format, but I think it's good for us to see and listen to the 15,000 hours. We think of it as fire calls and EMS calls. We know numbers. We do know the state makes you guys take a lot of training and different things. We hear that at the negotiation sessions. So I guess the 893 fire calls, that's town and village, 893, equates up to 15,000 gross person hours. So it's all good stuff. I'll end my discourse there. Anybody else? Okay, gentlemen and ladies, thank you. All right. Let's see, we'll move to regular format here now. In line with financial talk, looks like Treasurer and Clerk Sorella, could you give your Treasurer's report, please?
Okay, account balances as of May 8th. General fund, $337,519.06. Water fund, $117,815.11. Trust and agency, $24,246.83. Materials management, $5,980.17. Petty cash, $32.20. Village green, $4,136.88. Hardscrabble, $6,189.34. And the health insurance, $8,053.62. Monthly expenses for the general fund, $158,162.13. Water fund, $32,071.37. Trust and agency, $24,246.83. Materials management, $3,047.28. And we are just 3 weeks into the end of our fiscal year, and things are looking very good. So as all the bills come in, I will pay them. So,
It's nice to know.
yeah, well, I don't hold them for you guys for the next board meeting. I have to pay.
I got you.
I have to pay what comes in at this point. I don't wait for board approval,
Uh-oh.
unless
Yeah,
it's
they're
something
looking-
really
they're
big.
looking hard at the vouchers next month, guys. I don't know if we can make that admission publicly.
Well, Brent will look, he always looks them over.
I'll look them over.
I think to be clear, we do have internal review even before the month
Oh, yes.
meeting, but anyway, thank you, Cindy. Hey, while we're in budget,
You can improve it?
I guess I should do that. While we're on budget, any questions about the report as presented? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And in budget mode, one of my regular business items was a small thing, but let's just hit that right now. We have budget adjustments. For those that look at the celebrations line where we budget $4,000 to put on some street festivals and different things, we also had the benefit of 2 years ago a $5,000 grant from the state of New York through Assemblymember Cahill, through his help with the Village of Red Hook. at the current time, we knew we had the grant money, and we broke it into 2 years of reimbursement. So what we have is, I'd like to adjust what would be the income line A, 2706 income, to show a new $2,118.61 coming in, and put the same amount as a credit to the expense line for celebrations, which is 7550.4. So it would take down the expenditures in that line and bring it into, it was a planned approach. We knew what we were doing there, but we'll just get it adjusted before year end. So if you look at the budget, you'll see what I'm talking about. Is there a second on that, Mr. Brett?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Will there be, I guess, other budget adjustments that we made during this?
Yeah, I think there's,
Towards the end of the month, yeah.
there'll be plenty, Brent.
Know where we are.
It was, this one, we just knew we had to pull it in before year end, and we did get the revenue a couple weeks ago. So it's pretty cool. We submit certain expenses and that we get reimbursed for, so catch it up there. Probably what we should do out of fairness, we have our engineers sitting out there, and what we could do, why don't we switch gears, and I think we can get you out of here too then, and go to our regular business. We heard the treasurer's report, we did the budget adjustment, so in the regular business world, we have the one bullet point, sewer updates, map plan and report. Maybe if we could bring Robert up here and give him the microphone, and I'll find something on my screens here.
For anyone in the audience, there's a packet here. It's got some of this key information. So if anybody's interested in it, you can have the.
We could do.
You guys probably have seen it already, right?
Robert, maybe if I get back into it a little bit, but back last June-ish, we approved a process to get the engineering moving forward. We did a bond resolution on or about the same point in time. And then, as you all know, we got some financing lined up since then. But one of the steps is that we have to develop a map plan and report. And we've been talking about it for probably 6 weeks. And last week we circulated a revised edition that was just some minor changes. But the overall concept is that the village intends to sewer the village, but we feel we can only do it in phases. So this is what's described as phase one, like the screen says. And the audience here is pretty much our regular attendees. But the board and everybody who's always here knows we want to maintain and keep a clean, safe aquifer. And we want to be able to enhance the village and the village businesses with ability to expand and attract new businesses and generate more jobs and just make Red Hook a greater place to live. And Red Hook Village has absolutely no sewer system at all right now, so we're building this from the ground up. It's very rare that a municipality does not have any sewer at all. We did get funding through USDA-RD. As a matter of fact, in a couple days, I intend to try to sit with our local congressman and remind him how this village totally needs USDA-RD. And part of this up on the board right now shows they gave us $4.9 million, but 1.2 is a pure grant, and then 3.7 million is low-interest loan for 38 years. So we've got the intention, the financial capacity now, and we've been engineering it. And this is the map of the village from overhead, and then the gray area is where the sewer will actually be functioning, built and functioning. So with the engineer, this is within the engineering report. And as one reads the engineering report, or excuse me, the map plan report, it's more of an overview in some concepts, as what I'm saying, costs, design area, function area, where things will be built as far as treatment, the type of facilities, type of plant we'll use, type of on-site facilities we'll have. Then we got to a point where in the map plan report, we've identified 125 properties plus or minus in the central business residential area. It's a mix of commercial and private residential properties. And this is all stated in deeper detail in the map plan report. It's based on water consumption, and we calculate how we get to our billing system. See, what gave us the big step up was once we got the funding commitment, we could build a model to be put into the map plan report where we knew what we would charge. We can now say the capital cost will be this per user because we know how many users and how many years and how much interest. And then we could estimate the operation and maintenance costs and then divide that by the number of users in the district. So it brought us to this map plan report. And the next step for us is to talk with Robert a little bit and decide to ratify it. He's sent it up already to EFC, DEC, some of the usual acronyms we deal with. We do have to also send it to the New York State Department of Health Commissioner just to get their approval on it. And then, so it's a step, but my position was we have to develop it before we send it off to others to approve it. In other words, we can't send something we haven't approved off to others. So it looks to me like we're at that point now. And in your packets I laid on, we had council help us develop a resolution. And then you all have digital versions of the map plan report. There have been print versions around. But Robert, do you want to fill in any blanks, and Brent too?
Just a little bit of summary too. So the key components of the study is identify who's going to receive the sewer service, what the cost is. So that report has an appendix in the back that's very important. Everybody who's going to receive sewer service can look up their specific address and see what their expected first-year cost is. And that's based on water usage, existing water usage. This one of the many things that we have to deliver and produce as we, generate the sewer project. So I think that captures the basics, and the one component that everybody cares about is how much it costs, right? So.
Yeah, I think we've had up on our screens. I'm going to pull it up again here. Computer's being a little slow. Let's see. Bear with me. What Robert referred to was we have a very detailed spreadsheet. And the good news is with the 125 properties that we identified, we sent out postcard mailers to all of them. And we've had 4 stakeholder meetings, and then the town EDC, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, invited folks too. So we've had a bunch of meetings with the people directly affected, and they all, if they showed up at the meeting, got to see this sheet I'm coming up with here. Let's see.
And we've also been meeting with individual business owners and property owners that could not make it to the meeting, so they've been coming in and notifying us, and we've been explaining to them the description of the system and their related costs.
But this, what Robert was referring to, and this is an appendix in the map plan report. It takes the properties by plot on the parcel access maps of the Village of Red Hook. It picks them up by name, and what we did was study their water consumption over a period of a year, and water consumption is directly related to what we would predict as sewer output. So it calculates benefit users, and then it does the math to show what it would cost people. It's $780 per year per benefit user, so a single-family homeowner would pay $780. The key thing, too, is the way the village decided to do it was to follow Article 14 of Village Law, where this is not a charge to every village resident. It's just those that are directly benefited. That's the 125. I think now it's 126 properties to be maybe more precise, but it's in that realm. They will be the ones carrying the cost of it, and the board felt that was the best way instead of making it a system-wide, village-wide tax. It's just those that get the direct financial benefit and the lifelong, never fearing failure of a on-site septic system. And that was deliberate on our part. But anyway, that being said, we did lay out the resolution, and I'm going to look for mine here. Jay, do you have yours on top of your pile there?
Resolution, I do.
Let's see. What we're calling it, I'll talk a little more, resolution to ratify a map and plan. Pardon me? Yeah. I'll leave one out there for you.
And which number is this going to be, by the way? Do we know?
Yeah, it's...
My stuff.
What this will do is let us ratify the presented map plan report, and then Cindy will cover it with a letter with assistance from council to send it up to the Commissioner of Health. And it's a step we have to take in the process.
Right, it's the official filing with the state.
Yeah. Robert has, like we said, sent it to EFC, and they wrote back. EFC is Environmental Facilities Corporation. They sent it back essentially, no comment. It was thank you very much, and no criticism, no.
Previous to this, we had submitted an engineer's report, which they had reviewed and approved. So this is a summary, and it's more financial, specific to the village. So that's why they had no comment.
They'll be looking at other documents, though, as they come in, basis of design.
There's a lot more to come, and as we've talked before, you've authorized us to proceed with the work. So we are, well into working on design, basic design report that you mentioned. All these are deliverables. Get submitted to the various regulator agencies for comments. This is all what's going to be happening in 2017 with the sewer project.
Because we have about 5 or 6, I'll call them balls in the air. We have to confirm and take ownership of the current treatment plant that's owned by a private development. We have to develop and write our own sewer law since we don't have a sewer. Things we're all working on. And there's the engineering side. Easements have to be developed and obtained. We have a draft easement now. All good, but it's very, very complicated.
There's a lot of there's no shovels in the ground, but there's a lot of work going on.
What I do envision is something within Article 14. Looks like we do have to have, even though we've had the stakeholder meetings, we probably have to do one formal invite to everybody to come here if they so choose and listen and see the data again in like a formal setting instead of the more informal stakeholder settings. So. But Mr. Trapp, are you in the reading mode down there?
Sure. I'll just start at the resolution to ratify and move down from that point, if that's all right. Resolution to ratify a map and plan, resolution number 13, 2017. Whereas on June 13, 2016, the Village of Red Hook established a municipal sewer system to serve the village pursuant to Article 14 of the New York State Village Law, as set forth in the engineering report prepared by CT Mail Associates dated June 2015, the engineering report. And whereas the village is seeking to construct the sewer system in phases, with the first phase encompassing the general business district and contiguous areas, in parentheses, the sewer project. And whereas a map and plan of the permanent sewer project with plans and specifications for sewage treatment has been prepared by CT Mail Associates dated February 15, 2017, last revised May 8, 2017, entitled Map, Plan, and Report, Village of Red Hook Sewer System, parenthetic, the map and plan, based on the engineering report. And whereas the maximum amount to be expended for the sewer project is $4,900,000, and whereas pursuant to Section 14-1400 of the New York State Village Law, before proceeding with the construction of any part of the sewer project, the map and plan must be approved by the New York State Commissioner of Health. And whereas on February 9, 2016, the Village Board adopted a negative declaration finding that the sewer project as proposed would not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement would not be prepared. Now, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook as follows. Number 1, the Village Board of Trustees ratifies the map and plan. Number 2, the Village Board of Trustees deems it desirable and in the best interest of the village that the portion of the village not covered in Phase 1 of the sewer project as set forth in the map and plan are temporarily omitted or deferred, and the mayor of the village is hereby delegated and directed to certify the foregoing provisions of this Section 2. Number 3, the village clerk is hereby directed to send a copy of the map and plan and the above referenced certification to the New York State Commissioner of Health for approval and certification, including the temporary omission or deferral of future phases of the sewer project.
Thank you, Jay. So the motion was read. I would offer it and ask for a second.
Second.
We could have discussion here now.
I got a few things.
Sure.
Under the first whereas, a typo,
Wyndham Mail, yeah, I got that.
CT Mail, the last whereas on the first page, Jay read February 9th.
Yeah, we
Should
did.
be February 8th.
Yeah, we got that, yep.
And then also on the map plan report itself, on the last page of the spreadsheet, when we talk about the benefit unit District 5, that undeveloped 10% O&M only should be omitted. Right there.
Okay, what he's talking about, this is what we circulated to you folks last week. This one section was originally going to have a minor charge, but they're not built yet or anything, so it's, we're taking this right here, let's see, it's undeveloped. And the plan would be, these are things that theoretically could be built in the future. And the premise is that when they're built, they will be charged
Full capital.
EDU benefit users. They'll be zero now because they're not built, but once they're built, they're going to be brought into the system as regular users. So, so Brent is editing by right there. So we get that right for you, Brent?
Right. So they'll be charged full O&M once they're developed.
Because they were being charged 1/10 of an EDU. And then the only other change, like I said in the email, was we added somebody on Graves Street that.
Was it 69-1 or something?
Yeah, the 60 areas. This person came to a session and we're going to be right by him, so we can work with that. So, Brent, on your corrections, I do see one as just a typo. We can insert that. It's not changing the intention of the matter. It was just Jay's 64-year-old eyes, whatever he is. Might have got an 8 and a 9. It does say 8 on the document.
Yep.
And then the resolution part is the meat of it. So essentially, what we're saying is it's staging it, clearly stating and restating that this is phase 1. Therefore, we're entitled and enabled to do a section of the village and not be locked into doing a $40, $50 million project in the whole village. And what Cindy will do with help from council tomorrow or the next day, they'll help craft a letter and the right name and right address for the Commissioner of Health. Just to be upfront, Robert had called up there, but we have to get a document up there too. Any discussion from board folks?
Yeah, just one other correction. I'm 63. I just thought I'd put that.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, we have a motion second. We've had some discussion. I would call it to a vote. We'll do a roll call. I'll vote yes, aye. Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Aye.
Ms. Norris? And Mr. Trapp?
Aye.
Thank you very much. While we have Robert up there, a couple other things. I think in my head, I've moved more to phase 2 water right now. We've had a lot of rain for the past, I think 12 of the last 20 days or something. It's like, and we are aware of those that are not in the audience, but we have the crews. We're still under warranty with the main general contractor. We got our folks and them looking at Phillips and corner of West Market Street ponding we're not liking, so looking at that. And we do get some comments from other residents, but we are monitoring it, and quite frankly, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's a high-level new concept of green infrastructure. We're actually quite proud of it. It's designed to push a lot of water to its own shoulder and be absorbed or transmitted underground and some piping to catch basins. The idea was to move away from storm surge flooding down the edges of streets, which we used to have in the village, and eroding and cutting and making streets wider. So I would like to remind a lot of residents that we do drive around and we do watch it, and even though one or two come to us thinking there's a problem, within very shortly after a major downpour, it's been absorbed, except at this place right now at Phillips and West Market. So we'll be on that. And you can bring that if people hit you, that's where we're at.
It worked very well in front of my house, which it did not in the past. I
Right.
mean, there was usually a large pool of water that then overflowed and continued down to the next available spot, and it was pretty much dissipated, you know.
Yeah, I've seen it better on my end too. Like, I'm a little downhill, and I used to look at like the third world, Colombia or Mexican mudslide thing, where that Garden Street would be just like a tarn, almost like a river sometimes. And now it's just it's just not the forceful rush down the street. It's really quite nice actually. Anyway, anything for Robert while he's still here? He'll be back Friday, and we'll do our normal brainstorming session. Okay, Robert. Thanks.
Thanks.
Let's see. Looks like I could give a police report. We can work with that, or she's a tape going. For the month of April, total of 335 incidents, and that breaks out 276 in the village, 57 in the town of Red Hook, and 2 in the village of Tivoli. I have to find out how Tivoli snuck in there again. Resulted in traffic tickets numbering 144. The breakout is 89 of those in the village. 5 of those were parking tickets, and then town of Red Hook, there were 55 traffic tickets. It does look like that number is perking up a little bit. To my eye, I think it's that extra money the town has put in for a contractual relationship with the PD. Arrests, 27, breaks out 15 in the village and 12 in the town. We have had a special detail put on Monday mornings. The highway department had asked for some help. They felt like the morning rush in Red Hook here was a lot of high-powered, high-speed drivers. Were kind of giving them a little pause for their own safety when they're working on Route 9 in particular. So we have put a patrol out once or twice on that, and they follow the highway vehicles, and it did result in they picked up somebody doing 45 and a 30 right there, passing the highway trucks. But so that was good. And on the side, the police, like they're represented by a bargaining unit, and later we'll go into executive session. We have had the first sit down with them on the new contract. It comes up June 1, 2017, so we've been talking, and we've got some positions from them which we can show. But it's what's considered executive session because it's to do with bargaining units and Taylor law and so forth, so I'll show it to you there. That's the police report. Looks like Mr. Trustee Trapp. I might introduce one thing though, Jay, before you go.
Sure.
Lara was out sick today, so we have the financial workings of the planning and zoning department, but not the full count that you normally read us with building inspections and fire
You
inspections.
bet.
So if you could just work with the data you were supplied with.
With therapy, I'll get through it, so don't worry about it. Before I get started, I'd just like to say, always look forward to Hardscrabble coming. You're hearing names and things about coming forward to various bands, but would just like to point back several years. We had Jim Weeder Group and someone called Colonel Bruce Hampton. I knew Bruce from my time down south. Bruce was he had a band called Colonel Bruce Hampton and the New Ice Age, and he had a lot of folks from Atlanta playing with him, and that's where he was centered. So Bruce was playing a concert at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, which was kind of relative to his 70th birthday, I think was a few days earlier. And Bruce was kind of a funny guy. You never quite knew what he was going to do or say or how he was going to act. And at some point during his concert, he sort of dropped down on his knees and turned around and directed one of the other guitar players to step up and play a solo. And he collapsed on stage and passed away shortly thereafter. So we just wanted to kind say that we appreciated his time here and that we enjoyed having him up. For me, it was good seeing an old friend that I hadn't seen in 25 years or so come up and do his thing. So I'd just like to get that out of the way to start with. And
Maybe we could, that's interesting, and it's kind of fun how we bonded up with some of these musicians, and it was unique that you knew him from your past life, so
Sure.
to speak. What was funny is Jay and I were talking on the phone about it, and it's probably a good way to go if you're a rock and roll musician and doing your show, and there you go.
it would,
So,
I mean, if I had a choice.
yeah,
you
better
know.
than sitting 12 years in a bed somewhere.
Sure. Oh, yeah, forget that.
Anyway.
And just back onto the planning side of things, I think it was April 25th, we had our first of our 3 short courses in Millbrook. It was 2 sessions. The first was our standard planning and zoning introductions that we give every year for the new people that come onto the boards at reorg for towns and villages. And then the second course, both of which were presented by the Department of State, New York. I think one's a presenter and one was a planner, I think. They came down, and the second one was hot buttons, hot button land uses, and a few things that that don't really apply so much to the village, like barn weddings. We really don't have the room and don't have too many areas where that might be appropriate. But the one that seemed to kind of catch a bit of attention were the Airbnbs or short-term rentals. So its regulation is coming for short-term rentals, and I think the state is working on some typical regulations. The town of Claverack is working on it. Livingston is working on it. So we may have some prototypicals that we may be able to then mold to our specifics. But some of the I guess the hot points that of the actual short-term rental uses is that as Tivoli has a landlord-tenant law, I think that's the same sort of thing. That's probably the first item that's going to be required, is somebody to be local or representative to be local. Number of times you can rent, lengths of times to be rented, and maybe planning board visits to special permits, different regulations like that. So these are the things that are coming. I've got some odds and ends that have been talked about. So I'll give these to Cindy if you want to take these, and at some point make some copies, let everybody take a peek at them. It's just some little excerpts from various websites that all around the country that are, I mean, it's not just us in New York that are dealing with this, but you have people like the Red Hook Inn that are paying, fees and taxes and things like this, and then you've got people who decide to rent a house, and it's just, it's without regulation. The thing that, being a code enforcement official, the thing that worries me most is safety features, Are these buildings fire safe, Things that happen to the community are a little bit of money comes in, but then on the other side, you may have different people every weekend at your, next to your backyard, and they don't live there, but they're to party and things like that. So there are issues that are going to come up, and I think we might be proactive if we can, and maybe thinking about that when we get some substantive regulations. And the last item I have here is Village of Red Hook Building Department. We had a good month, $2,275 last month. Nice chunk of change. So nicely done. And I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Trapp.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll hear more from you in a bit. But, let's see. Why don't we go to Trustee Norris?
Always keep me on my toes. Okay, we have a very busy month coming up. Due to weather, we had to postpone our bike rodeo, which was supposed to be this past Saturday. I'm 99.9% sure that it will be June 3rd. I'm just waiting for confirmation from one other thing. But it'll probably be June 3rd. I'll definitely let you know. That'll be from 1 to 4 in the Red Hook High School parking lot. This event is held in conjunction with the Red Hook Police Department and the Town of Red Hook Recreation Department, along with Kingston Cyclery and Bard Bike Co-op. We provide free bike tune-ups and helmet checks, and then kids can test their skills on an obstacle course that we set up. And then there's the Tour de Red Hook, which is usually down Benner and around Rokeby, that is monitored and safe so that kids can get their confidence level going on a bike ride. So that hopefully will be June 3rd. This Saturday, the Red Hook Rotary will hold Apple Blossom Day. It's rain or shine. Hopefully it'll be shine, although it's not looking too good. Vendors, food, and entertainment from 10 to 4. And then May 20th, we have stuff all day. It's crazy. Town and Village Cleanup Day, meeting at the Red Hook Community Center at 12:30 for supplies and assignment. And then you go out and you pick up garbage. It's actually kind of fun. It's actually very family-friendly and a good time. Also village-wide is the Red Hook Free Cycle, where local households, sorry I spelled that wrong, are encouraged to place free items curbside that people can go around and take.
It's free bicycles or?
No, it's just.
Okay.
We did that one year.
I'm just making a joke.
You are making a joke. The only thing that we ask is that you remove it by the end of the weekend. Okay. We have a community potluck at the Red Hook Community Center that night at 6 p.m. And then at 7 p.m. that night, also at the Red Hook Community Center, we have a film screening and Q&A session with local filmmaker and Red Hook Village resident Seth Kramer for his award-winning documentary, The Anthropologist. If you're a parent and you want to take a night out, but you don't want to pay for a babysitter, bring the kids. I have a couple teen volunteers who will watch your children enjoy the community center while you enjoy the film. So that event is free and open to all. So that's May 20th. So a lot of stuff happening there. And then the parade, I was reminded, the parade. That will be on Memorial Day at 10 o'clock. Lineup is at 9:15 at the high school. The parade route will be the high school, taking a left down to West Market Street to the Village Light, then a left on 9 up to Memorial Park, where there will be an observance ceremony after the parade. Okay, and then moving on for materials management. Give me 1 second. It's allergy month for me. Okay, for the month of April, we sold $2,195 in tags and paid out $1,082.45. We had 9.14 tons of garbage and 5.73 tons of single-stream recycling. Reminder, unfortunately, we're now being charged $20 a ton for single-stream recycling. We do have our buy 10, get 1 free event going on through the end of June. Buy 10 blue or red tags and get 1 free. That's what I got.
Good. I don't know if you promoted the buy 1 free. You kind of talked away from the mic for a minute there, but I was working here on my computer, standing up at the desk, and I'm telling you, man, people are coming in and buying tags today. I think you're going to have a big month next month.
Sweet.
It's good.
And I saw you Sunday hoofing it over to the store with a fistful of blue tags.
Right.
At which I
get
yelled
the
at you
lucky
as I
delivery
drove by.
duty. The health food store sells our tags, and I get a panic call. Ed, I'm out of tags. And he sells about almost 100 a week, so it's
But just know that the buy 10, get 1 free thing is only at the Village Hall,
right.
not over.
Yeah, we don't bring them enough for that kind of inventory. One thing, too, when we did our budget, we'll be announcing it in a newsletter, but right now the small bag tags are $2.50 a tag, and the big ones are $5. We did vote to move to $2.75 and $5.50, but that's not until July 1st. We'll let everybody do their spring cleanup, and we'll get some more formal announcement out in our newsletter about that. But it's primarily driven by that we're now being charged that $20 a ton for recycling, where it was always free in the past. Free meaning to us when we dropped it off. And that's that part. One thing, board, as we're in Jen's celebrations mode, like she mentioned, we have Apple Blossom Day this weekend. I had a thought. I thought we'd run it by you folks. Normally we close a piece of Prince Street for Apple Blossom Day, and that's generally about it. But we've got our soft running sidelines here, meaning the edges of Prince Street were just re-topsoiled, and it's been raining so long it hasn't really had a chance to set, nor has it had a chance to set really on Church or Fraley or anywhere else. But Prince gets a lot of action with people trying to park close to the stage and different things. It tends to be more vendors and musicians and people that don't want to schlep their goods too far. I would feel better if we totally and no parked Prince from Church Inn, just to have, so we're not tearing up. Historically, we do one side closed to parking, just to keep safe passage through for fire trucks and things, but it's really not, I just don't want to look at the street every day we drive up to the Village Hall, and then, even going a little further, we might want to go down Church and.
I think last year
Prince, a little more.
we did put no parking restrictions on one side of the streets.
Right.
Because the streets are, some are narrower, some are wider, but it's just so we can guarantee that a vehicle can go through there at least one direction.
Yeah, so people can park in the Key Bank lot, they can get there from Route 199, West Market. It's not the biggest issue in the world, but usually we like to just get a board concurrence and when we're closing a street, just so everybody knows, and we would direct the highway department.
Local traffic only sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be on Prince itself, close it from Church Inn, and then no park it too, because what happens is people tend to bypass the street close sign because they think they're just parking, or, they feel they might have event dispensation, like they're part of the event or something. But it's just not gonna work this year. And then, like your corner and, the parade route will stay off. Remember last year, we modified the route just because.
Parade on Apple Blossom Day.
I'm sorry, that's right. I'm thinking one step ahead, Memorial Day. But we'd probably just close that. And I think I might want to put some no parking on Church somewhere there. It's
Church, yep.
And then,
Right at the second block between Prince and Fraley is rutted up again already.
Yeah, and then Fraley and that whole side, from Prince all the way down to Garden Street should be one way, or one side no parking for Saturday.
on Church, you're saying?
On Church, yeah.
I'd be inclined to even put two sides, if we could, I mean,
Okay.
because they're gonna go off in the mud, no matter what we do. Why don't we see if the highway guys have enough signs to do both sides on Church? And then, it's just 1 year until it grows back. But, so, just to make it, I'd entertain a motion that we fully close Prince and also mark it from Church to South Broadway with no parking, and then put no parking on Church from Prince down to Garden. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? It'll be a little bit of a pain. People have to park at the school or something, but we're trying to save our streets a bit. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. I'll talk to Dan tomorrow and see. Thank you, Jen. Let's see. Mr. Lang, are you ready to talk about water? Whatever else is on your mind over there?
Probably just water.
How you feeling
Although
this month?
I did send a text to the missus to get some more garbage tags.
Oh, yeah, let's take advantage of that sale.
But yes, I have the water report for April 2017 here. So during the month of April, the water treatment plant treated 5,804,000 gallons of water at an average rate of 193,000 gallons a day. And the plant used 35 gallons of liquid hypochlorite solution at an average of 1.16 gallons per day. So that corresponds to April last year. The plant treated 7,234,000 gallons at an average rate of 241,000 gallons per day. So this year's April represents a decrease in treated volume of 1,430,000 gallons at an average of 47,667 gallons per day, or a decrease of 20% over 20% less than last year. So I think another month demonstrating the significant benefits of our new infrastructure. I also have a little conservation tip. That's always a winner with the audience. Try to collect laundry into full loads rather than running smaller loads more often, as the small load setting on most washing machines uses quite a bit more water than is actually necessary to wash what is often a single outfit. So, washing clothes in gallons of perfectly potable water after only being warm for a few hours is a luxury, and it should be respected as such.
Do you get this from like a
Wise
conservation
words
tip a day
indeed.
calendar?
Actually, it comes
or-
from a fortune cookie.
I don't know. I know who it comes from. It's our water operator, and I'm
I
wondering how
have,
often.
I have yet to meet the water
I
operator.
I
think
have a
that-
feeling he doesn't do his laundry too often.
But this doesn't come from you?
Maybe I should add
I
something.
know, right? Spice it up. All right.
Good, thank you. But that is huge, that 193,000 is 20% less. Well,
That's a big difference.
working for next year, next month rather, because that was one of our big things, trying to measure and manage what was happening between the wells and the tanks to the tap. It looks like we're getting it under, reining it in, which is good. Thank you, Charles. And what we've been waiting for. Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
That was a shot.
Really? I'm ready anyway. Start with the Village Green Committee. Current balances of the Village Green Committee's related budget accounts as of April 30th are as follows. Community beautification, $2,534.82. Shade tree contractual, $6,700. And the Village Green Committee checking account, $4,136.88. April was very busy for the Village Green Committee as we did plant trees. April 15th, we located the tree sites on the properties. On the 19th, we unloaded the trees that came delivered on a tractor trailer from Schichtel's Nursery. And on the 21st, Dave Pearson and Michelle Decker, who volunteered her time from Decker Construction, dug the holes and prepared the tree planting sites. And then on April 22nd, we held our annual spring planting and Arbor Day celebration. We had 20 volunteers that assembled at the village parking lot. I read the Arbor Day proclamation, which is required to maintain our Tree City USA status. And just to repeat what I said at the proclamation, the Village Green has planted approximately 500 trees since its first year as a designated Tree City USA. We are now in our 15th year as Tree City. We did plant 12 trees. 11 of those we bought. One was donated to the cause, but we did plant it anyway. Trees were planted on Garden Street, at Richard Abraham's Memorial Park, South Broadway, Cambridge Drive, and at the Red Hook Community Center, which was then dedicated by Dr. Verley at the official opening. And we'd like to especially thank Violet Swidler. She's a student intern with the Bard College Center for Civic Engagement for organizing and transporting 9 Bard students, volunteers, to help plant trees, and it was well appreciated. And then on April 29th, the Village Green Committee and the Red Hook Town Tree Commission celebrated the official Arbor Day with a luncheon for the volunteers at the Red Hook Town Hall. Also, what we're in process of doing now, on April 28th, we did review and inspect trees selected by the Highway Department for pruning or removal, and we have sent letters to all the property owners notifying them that we will be either pruning or removing their trees, and if they would like to contest the decision that we've made, we're certainly open to discussing it with them. So we'll be removing trees shortly. And I do have the list for Dan, so I'll get you that. The Village Highway Department monthly report. The Village Highway Department is currently picking up lawn and brush debris every first and third Monday of the month as their schedules permit. Sometimes they have an emergency that comes up. Residents are reminded to place lawn debris curbside and separate brush, lawn debris, and grass clippings in separate piles. And please store the debris out of sight until the scheduled pickup dates to prevent conflicts with other village services such as materials management, and to keep our streets clean and free from windborne debris. And the Highway Department requests that you limit the size of the piles to 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet, with tree limbs and branches no larger than 8 inches in diameter. Street sweeping will begin in early May. I believe it's going to start this week, right?
Usually be apple blossom.
Usually they try to do it, but must be the weather that's holding them back. Residents are reminded to sweep sand and gravel from their lawn edge into the sides of the streets. Please do not push sand and gravel into piles, but into a line. The street sweeper is not designed to clean up the mounds of debris, but does a pretty good job at cleaning up lines of it. The Highway and Water Department will be repairing water infrastructure during the spring and summer. And we did secure some preliminary estimates for some projects. And this is all listed. There's 3 priorities with their associated prices. So we're looking forward to getting that going shortly. The New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services have requested that the municipalities and storm districts in Dutchess and Sullivan counties list their costs incurred during the winter storm Stella. Possible relief for these costs may be reimbursed by FEMA. And I believe Ed is working on that with Dan. The following information is being collected from March 14th and 15th. So just personnel overtime, equipment costs and mileage, material costs. I guess this may have to do with our general business district cleaning too. Hopefully we...
Yeah. Here, just like,
Sorry.
if I could jump in, we are submitted already. We've estimated $27,000 that the storm cost us. We haven't really heard if the county and the state are actually going to meet the total and that FEMA will be triggered, but we're in with our data.
Okay, good. And as of today, the bridge on County Route 78, which is Broadway and Tivoli, is to be replaced. Work is expected to continue to the summer with the new bridge opening by early fall. So anyone going over to our sister village in Tivoli is going to have to follow the detour signs to get into the village. The village received the Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, or CHIPS, apportionment balance from the New York State DOT on April 21st. We did get some additional money, and I would like to have a chance to review this list with what we have allocated in our fiscal year 17-18 to make sure that we have the appropriate amount in there. We did get some paved New York additional money. We had some rollover from last year and some new stuff this year. So it's quite a bit of money. I think total we have about $88,348.75.
So could I jump in again, Brent?
Sure.
So that second line in your report, rollover balance, that's new money already on?
The rollover balance is what we rolled over from last year. This state fiscal year 17-18 is the new money we got from the state. So the $48,028.70, we got to make sure that the money from I think we took money out for the truck. But that may have been the last fiscal year.
So which year do you want to look at? The year we're just winding up right now?
Yeah, I did run a copy, and Cindy has a copy if you need it, but of the what we've gotten into.
Okay.
I just want to compare. I mean, this number is accurate from New York, but this is what our balance is and what we've appropriated in this budget year. And we could do that probably at workshop. Scrap metal was sold on April 25th for $319.50. Total revenue generated for this fiscal year 16-17 is $2,730.15. Since inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September 2007, $21,978.17 has been generated, and the proceeds from this program go toward purchase tools and equipment for the Village Highway, Water, and Material Management Department. Anyone interested in donating scrap metal, businesses, residences, can contact the Highway Department or the Village Clerk's Office, and the Highway Department personnel will assist property owners by picking up scrap metal upon request. And the Infrastructure and Task Force monthly report, The Red Hook Sewer Project. Meetings were held on April 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th in the Village of Red Hook building. We discussed the USDA accepted our engineering services agreement. We had a drawdown that was submitted to New York State EFC. And we reviewed the draft. Let me see what we reviewed. This was the options and the contract for the conveyance of property of Red Hook Commons we reviewed. And we re-registered the Village of Red Hook account on the New York State Environmental Facilities project listing and update. On April 5th, the sewer project conversation or informational meeting, this was the last one we held at the Elmendorf Inn. Ed, Robert Flores, and myself presented aspects of the sewer project and held a discussion and conversation with meeting participants. On the 19th, we met with Tom Field of Ryan Biggs Clark Davis Engineering Survey and their CT Mails Associate Engineer to review and outline the Red Hook Village Sewer Use Law. On the 21st, we met with Bard College sewer operators and the Sustainability Officer to review the Red Hook Village Sewer Project regarding treated discharge from the proposed sewer project treatment plant. On April 28th, we reviewed the draft agreement for installation of municipal sewer system components, also known as temporary and permanent easements for property owners within the sewer project service area. And that was it for the sewer. On the Village Water Project Phase 2, meeting was held on April 14th, and we reviewed the punch list prepared by CT Mail for completion by Jerson Construction. We looked at change order 1 from Gross Electric, and we also discussed project closeout, including decommissioning of the elevated water storage tank, the punch list, lien releases to subcontractors, and trustees' acceptance of final completion. The 2015 Community Development Block Grant, we're almost done. Upstate Masonry and Concrete submitted revised payroll forms that were then forwarded to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for their review, approval, and hopeful reimbursement. We also applied for the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development Pace University Land Use Law Center Zoning Pilot Program. We have followed up several times with Owen Rafter, and we are still waiting a response. On the Intermunicipal Task Force, I represent the village as a member. The task force met on April 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th at the Red Hook Town Hall. We are discussing the updates and status review of the Red Hook Sewer Project. We discussed the proposed use, bulk, and architectural standards for the proposed Upper Red Hook Hamlet Business District. We discussed the Town of Red Hook sign regulation amendments and recommendations from case law of New York State. And we reviewed the proposed Red Hook Town zoning ordinance for photovoltaic systems that regulate commercial solar farms pertaining to the location, size, screening, etc. And one more, the Red Hook Economic Development Committee, both Ed and I are liaisons representing the village. The EDC met on April 12th and 26th in the village building. There was a report on the Retail Merchants Committee, and they are sponsoring the Friday Night Lights, which means the businesses, some selected, most businesses are open till 9 o'clock on the first Friday of every month. We had a presentation and discussion with Vanessa Schaefer from the Gaslight Inn on the proposed expansion and the effects of that project on the Town of Red Hook Hamlet Business District zoning regs. We talked about the EDC presence at the Rotary's Apple Blossom Day Festival. And we're discussing perceived trends and strategy for sustainability of small retail and service business in the village and Town of Red Hook. And we also discussed the support statement of the Red Hook Town Board and Village Board of Trustees for the arrival of refugees under the auspices of the CWC, which is the Church World Services, into our region, as well as the efforts of local groups such as the Mid-Hudson Refugee Solidarity Alliance. And there was a letter that I did attach for the board. at some date we can review. The Community Preservation Fund, I'm a representative of the village on that board and also a member. There are no Community Preservation Fund advisory boards held during the month of April. The current balance of the CPF as of April 30th is $784,146.55. The Sawkill Watershed Community met on April 19th at the Elmendorf, and there was a brief history of the first Earth Day then and now, a community conversation, and a letter writing campaign to U.S. senators and representatives in support of ways to take action on Earth Days. And the Town of Red Hook, Village of Red Hook, and Tivoli Highway Shared Services Committee. There was a meeting held on April 14th at the Red Hook Village Building to discuss advancing the Red Hook Highway Shared Services Project Phase 2. We also had conversations continue with Dutchess County Department of Planning to assist the Town of Red Hook, the Village of Red Hook, and the Village of Tivoli with the implementation of asset inventory compliance and in compliance with GASB 34. And these are all things that were studied in the Phase 1 of the shared services. The Red Hook Community Center, the Red Hook Area Chamber of Commerce hosted a ribbon cutting ceremony on April 20th. The grand opening was on April 22nd, and a community potluck was held on April 28th. That was sponsored by the Bard College students from the Center for Civic Engagement. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
I do just want to say real quick, I did get confirmation, the bike rodeo will be on June 3rd.
Third? Who? Just perchance, who is the confirmer?
That would be Officer Wilson, who was
Okay.
he had said June 3rd works, and before I went full steam ahead, because we can't do it without him, I want to be like, you're really, really sure June 3rd works? So yes, June 3rd works.
Good. Probably works out with all the rain.
Yep.
Not too many people have gotten on their bikes yet anyway, so. Anyway, let's move into what's left of regular business here. Heard from all department and committee folks. We dealt with sewer updates, the map plan and report, which is the first bullet. The second one's more informational. You might all remember we were in some trepidation a couple months ago when the state was formulating its budget and was trying to incorporate a reduction or takeaway of our AIM money, which is assistance to municipalities, in return for further shared services initiative plans. The good part is the budget passed and they did not put a stick in the equation, meaning that the AIM money is still there, but they are pushing the county executives, or in counties where there is no executive, the Board of Supervisors, to convene meetings with mayors and town supervisors to develop more shared service initiatives. It's an odd scenario in that it's really just directed to mayors or the designated reps of villages, and supervisors are designated. It's not like multiple board members can go. And one is coming up, I think May 9th or 19th. I have it on my calendar. It's already booked. We'll go down. I've asked, we're always good at looking at shared service initiatives. And you recall we did the government efficiency plans, 3 years ago? Right now, not too many jump to mind. We're still pursuing the highway shared services with the town, with some grant money from the county on that. But I'll go and listen and see what comes up. A couple of my thoughts, which I've circulated to the board, are could we somehow deal with, instead of each little town and village having their own part-time code enforcement and zoning enforcement folks, could we somehow have the county hire people that are credentialed, skilled, and full-time with real salaries and real benefits, and then we would somehow share them? I've put that out to the county executive. At a mayors and supervisors meeting I went to last week, they were looking at a health insurance cooperative, but my experience in that world is no such thing exists. Even big employers don't get really any breaks in the health insurance world, and even if you compile all the employees in the small munis in the county, it's not a huge market force. shared assessors has come up, but we share with the town already. Sharing further, it seemed like there was mixed opinions on it at the supervisors meeting. They felt there might not be enough local knowledge by assessors who were shared. But I would take input on that. But essentially, I was looking toward things where maybe instead of chasing code enforcement and zoning enforcement folks, we would have access to something more full-time and more permanent. That we don't need to vote or anything. I'll keep you posted on the meeting when it's over. Then seeker lead agency, Village of Red Hook Planning Board, Red Hook Commons, Kearney Subdivision. I have a packet here. Brent and Jay are probably a little more familiar. Charlie, I guess you're on planning board experience at the town level. But in line with some of our intentions with the sewer project and some of Red Hook Commons project owner Ken Kearney, we're looking to subdivide some land so we can take and contractually take over a lot, about 10 acres with the sewer treatment plant on it. And then there's some other lots that get created. And he's also looking at the same time to start formalizing some of his development of other land he owns near Trustco Bank and that street side just off Route 9 South. So he's coming before the planning board with his engineers and drawing plans and so forth. So planning board is looking for us to concede that they could be, they circulated a letter to, looks like Village of Red Hook, our board, New York State DEC, Dutchess County Department of Health, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development. But they're asking to be lead agency under seeker. It looks routine and in our interest to let them do that. They've had some preliminary meetings. In the file I kept is the current drawings by Morrison Associates that lists the site plan and subdivisions that are going underway. Attached to it was in-house to us, a planning board consent form. It's entitled "A Response to Request that the above-named agency serve as lead agency regarding the above action." So they have project name Red Hook Commons, name of applicant Kearney Realty and Development. They give the tax map locations, and we can either consent, do not consent, or take no position. I think we should consent, and I was talking with our lawyers. I'll explain more. We don't need a resolution, just be motion so I can sign this, but there's a part B of it. Our lawyer indicated that we should also talk about that I'd be directed to send a letter to the Village of Red Hook Planning Board authorizing that the Kearney Group can submit the site plan, the subdivision application on Red Hook Commons, since it includes a portion of Morgan's Way, a village street. So in other words, part of the subdivision affects land that was originally designated could be part of a street, like in some future time. So what we're looking to do is reconfigure the lot lines and so forth. So there can be some commercial development on what could have been a street at one point in time. It would have been probably what, a cul-de-sac. What's the current term for a cul-de-sac?
Hammerhead.
Hammerhead, and which we don't really like in the first. Well, I think
It's a different configuration.
yeah, it's a
One looks like a hammerhead, one looks like a circle.
hammerhead. I guess you got to do a 3-point turn to get out of, and but anyway, what that means is that we would let the engineers work and reline, redefine what was originally going to become a village street, and let that be included in the subdivision to make lots, and then give us what we need to get the sewer treatment plant lot. So anyway, the motion would be, upon review of the Village of Red Hook Planning Board documents, to consent to Red Hook Village Planning Board serving as lead agency in a coordinated review of Red Hook Commons, seeker review, both site plan and subdivision. Also, the mayor is directed, and I just read that, to send a letter to the Village of Red Hook Planning Board authorizing that Kearney Group can submit the site plan and subdivision application on Red Hook Commons, since it includes a portion of Morgan's Way, a village street. I would offer that as a motion. We can have some discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the subject of a lot of our Friday meetings, just trying to parcel out how to get ownership of that land and then it fits with it. Any other discussion?
No, planning board should be the one. They make the decision, so that's pretty simple, straight ahead, I guess.
So we would check, we do consent, and then I would sign it. So All in favor?
Aye.
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 Did I hear Mr. Brent? Did you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see, let me give myself a note. This is a little more discussion, but I wanted to put on to get people thinking and some steps taken. Greenway grant application dash zoning updates. In our current zoning code, we've historically talked and done some interim and piecemeal revisions in our general business district. Most recently, the whole change up with the CVS project and so forth. But it's not comprehensive, it's not the end game situation. And when one looks at our zoning code, there's a lot of work to be done. We've had some attempts at other smaller incremental things, but the way it seems to work best for us, if we get a grant and put then ourselves and a consultant into the mix and work on something. One thought I had was that with the sewer coming in, the GBD is defined, but then as one goes east on Route 199, East Market Street, some of that area is in an even more antiquated highway business district, which I think we have to consider and work with, getting some revisions. I thought we'd task somebody with, we've been pretty successful in getting Greenway grants, and $5,000, $10,000 size might be something if we get it in the bank. And
Usually maximum about 10 grand, but it's a 100% match actually. So if you get 10 grand, you have to put 10 grand in either cash or in-kind services, which
we've been fortunate because on our board we have historically Jay and Brent, who are planning and zoning professionals, so we can charge their hourly rate at market rate, and we could probably conjure up a way. I don't know what you make in your real world, but it's essentially we can clearly say that these people work in their day-to-day life at this type of a rate, and we're not bending the truth or anything, so it makes it easier to make a match.
And 10 grand doesn't get you a lot, but there's quite a bit of work to do on our zoning code. And another part of it is, the R10,000, which is really, it's a zone that exists since the 70s, but it really doesn't exist because it's predicated on the fact that we have a central sewer in designated residential areas. So that's another area that needs to be looked at and redefined or eliminated.
Yes, we'd have to deal with that in conjunction with the map plan and report and certain statements we're making, like someday we will, not in the near future, but someday there will be sewer everywhere. But anyway, I don't know if anybody wanted to spearhead it or a consortium of folks.
I'd certainly be willing to work on it.
I think the key thing would be get the key wording and get a grant application out. And we lost your friend.
With the Greenway grants in the past, we did have a grant writer, that was relatively inexpensive. They wrote a nice narrative, and we've been using. We could probably write it ourselves. That the narratives we've been using for a lot of the grants have been. I think we hit on something successful, so we could probably do that.
Yeah.
I don't, Jay and I don't know who's now the acting or director of the.
I have it written down, and
I think
name has not gotten locked in yet. So
I think he was head of finance or something.
yes, he kind of jumped up a slot or two, I think.
Mark Castiglione, who was the acting director for a long time, moved on, so he was very supportive of Red Hook and his grants.
Do they have a blank form they like?
There's an application, and I believe it's 4 times a year that they accept them. So we have to look at the deadline, and we can get going on it soon. It's not a bad.
I think we could line up some money in a few high-level targets, and then it's not going to happen in one $10,000 grant, but
it could.
Well, we could get started. We could pick some places that we feel maybe are most efficient.
Most of I know the Greenway grants that have come through the town, they hold back some money until they're implemented. So there's been discussion about it. Can those greenway grants help pay for legal costs, which that's where you get the money adds up. So that's something we could check into as well.
I know it's quasi-related, but it's some of the members of the current board helped build our NMU zone. And the current owner of the chocolate factory has indicated he wants to do some changes to add some space within the village property, within the current property.
The chocolate factory
That's
is,
the LIB.
yeah, it's a separate zone. We zone that as a separate entity.
Yeah, but then around it, they border the town, and he's incubating some interesting businesses that he wants to keep as tenants, and he wants to build 2 10,000 square foot in the rural lands. They're not the urban, or kind of, shouldn't use that term, but it's not the village streets part that's behind the current chocolate factory. And I met with him, and I'd love to get that somehow annexed into the village, because access would be through the drives and rights of way and land he owns that are in the village to get through to the town zoned land. And
let's do it.
So I don't know if we could, in conjunction, I gave him the short form annexation pages from municipal law, and he's a knowledgeable and well-funded builder, so I think he's gonna do this, but I'd rather see if we could help somehow get it. So I don't know if somehow in this zoning conceptual change, do we move that to LIB? Do we make it an MU around the LIB? Things that I would defer to some others to think about, but it'd be kind of a light manufacturing type scenario is what he seems to be describing.
Maybe it could be an expansion of the LIB.
That would be my, if it's part of the chocolate factory complex, yeah.
But I don't know if in the grant we could somehow fund that, because an annexation does cost some dough too, as far as, would be just for your brains to turn on a little bit.
That's why I think, it'd be nice to get some feedback from Dutchess County Planning about that PACE pilot program, because that was specifically set up for economic development options. So in conjunction with the sewer and what we're doing, what we're hopefully will happen here in the village because of the sewer, I think that would really be advantageous for us to get that assistance from the county and from Pace University. So I'd like to pursue that a little bit more too.
So I guess as far as step going forward, if it sounds like the two of you will get the application and download it and check some boxes. And sound good? I don't think we need a motion. I think it's just work on it.
And Ed, something that we chatted about, and just another way to, maybe save some bucks here for the village. As you know, general code publishers is a relatively, costly process to keep it up, update it, upload it, all these sort of things. There are a number of municipalities that I work with that do not participate in E-code or the E-code 360. And just personally, the format of E-code for me doing my research is kind of difficult, because you have to go back and forth so much, accessing different segments of the code. The municipalities that I deal with a lot have it online on their own website in one PDF that they modify and upload when required. And the cool thing about that is once you open it up, you can hit Control F and search the entire document yourself for fences, and then you can search everything online. You can copy clip. You can't alter it, but you can copy clip pieces to your report, to your letters and things like that. And it's really a very convenient process. The changes could be handled in-house. Anything that Lara types like a machine gun. She could probably type up anything in a very short period of time, and our webmaster could upload it, and I think it would offer considerable savings to the village. Just something to think about going forward.
So it'd be, what I'm looking at, our whole red book is our village code. Are you saying just the zoning world?
Just the zoning portion that's what I have to work with. Some municipalities have their entire subdivision, their zoning. Some have Some have portions of the general municipal law, but few have all of that up there.
So you, if we do it, Lara would go to our current zoning, type it manually.
And just set a format in Word and type it in those priorities, the headings, the subheadings, and those things.
Maybe lock it as a PDF or something?
Yep, you create it as PDF, and then you give it to the webmaster, and he uploads it, or if we upload it, you do that, and the changes would be in-house at whatever cost it costs for our time, which is probably a little less than what Code Publishers hits us up for.
And the problem you see with E-code is if you're looking for something in zoning, it doesn't automatically pull you through all the categories?
If you go to the zoning segment of the code, you hit, table of contents, click districts, you'll get the districts, and that's it. And then you have to go back to the table of contents and hit the next piece, and then the next part will open. So it's kind of segmented, whereas the other, you can just scroll from one end to the other if you want, or you can do the search. And I have not been able to do the search on the E-code site. It tends to kind of segment you to one small block of information. Just from, I don't know how it works for other people, but from a research and an engineering side, it's more convenient for me to have the whole document open at one time. So that's all, just just something to think about.
Sounds interesting, but I always thought E-code should be state-of-the-art, but it sounds like it's not.
Well, it is, in that it provides access to anybody, but then if it's on our website and it says village laws and bylaws, and there it is. So it's all the same.
All right, last formal business piece here, let's see. I added it, so it's not on yours, sorry. County mitigation plan. I got an email from William Beal, who's the Dutchess County Office of Emergency Management Director. And Panda Man, we had a tape over there or something? Are we good? Okay. What I had done, we put a resolution in your packets and a attached page. I've attended meetings at their headquarters down at Dutchess Community College, and essentially it's an offshoot of, I'm getting like feedback here or something. It's an offshoot of the plan with FEMA and different folks, especially after Sandy, Lee, and Irene and all that. The county and FEMA folks are just trying to work together to coordinate hazard and disaster mitigation plans, and they compiled, and I didn't print this whole thing out for you all, but they compiled a document. Let me just click to it. It's probably 30 pages long, but it talks about different things that can happen: coastal storms, drought, earthquakes, extreme temperatures, floods, severe storms, winter storms, wildfire. And historically what we do is we'll have like a task force ourselves, we'll call in Red Hook PD, Red Hook Fire Department, and then get on the phone with county and also Central Hudson and town of Red Hook folks. We've got a pretty good system, and they're helping coordinate this. And quite honestly, OEM has been great. When we had the last storm, Stella, here, whatever it was, 6 weeks ago now, they're very helpful, and the county has a good communications network. So essentially, we gave them a lot of data, and to the village's credit, we don't have the real risk of floodplain exposures. We don't have fast-moving water on hillsides, things like that. And what we do have is within our building code, we do honor and look at the current proper construction techniques that are designed to offset certain types of bad things that can happen to property and wind and different things. But to me, the big exposure historically with storms has been the storm water, the flood water, the ground surface water, and we're flat enough and low enough where we don't get into that too much. But they went through a whole, as you can see, a couple changes I made, and I edited this document and sent it back to them. It hasn't made a formal change yet, but they have, our code enforcement folks would be just changing names where those are changed. But a lot of it, you know, it's, as you can see, a consultant was hired by the county, I think with some FEMA money, and it's an incredible document. But they're just asking us to adopt that we're willing to work cooperatively with the county and their consultant to keep gathering information and then work in joint fashion when we do have hazards and we have to work on things. The second page of what I gave is they talk about what the benefits are of working with them. And one is reduces the loss of life, property, essential services, critical facilities, and economic hardship. Reduces short-term and long-term recovery and reconstruction costs. Increases cooperation and communication within the community through the planning process. Increases potential for state and federal funding for recovery and reconstruction projects. That's one thing they pushed a lot was now, you know, with trying to get money from Storm, Stella, they help coordinate with Dutchess County and then compiling records that go up to the state, which then go to FEMA. So I think it's worth it for us doing it. They're calling it adoption of a jurisdictional annex to the Dutchess County. So we would be incorporated in the Dutchess County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And there's a couple of whereases and
A little typo right there.
Pardon me?
A little typo there.
You guys are good. Where is it?
Village of Red Hook Pattern Book.
You're doing my thing.
Village Completed Design Guild, I think. No, I guess that's right, guide, guild.
Be a design guide.
I think it's a guide, not
Yeah.
a guild. I would love to have a design guild.
I'd be on it.
But what they did, they looked at what we have to guide and push building direction, you know, code and code enforcement. And as you can see, it's,
By default, our code enforcement officer is the floodplain manager.
yeah, I had to change that. When I wrote back to Bill, I put Robert Flores. There's two spots where that appeared. I didn't pick up the guild versus guide, I'll be honest with you, Brent. That's good.
Guild actually sounds a little nicer, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, we got the old Dutch guilds. Your feedback.
They're all that.
But anyway, as you can see, we didn't sit and develop all these charts, but so we rely on them and our internal folks, FD, PD, OEM down in the county. So the resolved part is that the governing body approves and adopts the attached Dutchess County Hazard Mitigation Plan, municipal annex as the jurisdiction's natural hazard mitigation plan and resolves to execute the actions of the plan. I could certainly forward this all to you, and you want to read through it. It's, but I don't think, quite frankly, it doesn't really change anything we do. It's, if a storm was blowing up tomorrow, we would call the same people together and have the same conferences and work with the county and move forward in that direction. They do, this chart's kind of cool. They list fuel stations, post office, different things that they consider higher risk as to causing damage, or if they're out of service, affecting people. But they have but without spending a 4-hour discussion on the document, and it's what the preference is, but I don't see any downside to it. And I would like to move forward to do it. Essentially, the first part, the first whereas, we have worked cooperatively with the county and this consultant, Tetra Tech. We provided them information. And then Dutchess County plan has been prepared in accordance with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. And then Dutchess County and Village of Red Hook are units of the government that have an opportunity to comment and provide input in the plan, which we did, and the meetings I went to, we did. We've reviewed the plan, and it gets updated no less than every 5 years. I reached out to Beal today, and we don't have to update it every 5 years. The county would update any changes. So to me, we're just piggybacking on their talent and their budget and their assets. So I would entertain a motion that the clerk give us a number of the resolution, first, 14. And I've given the overview, the various whereases are in front of you. I'd offer that we adopt resolution number 14 and continue to work with the county and participate in hazard mitigation plans. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see, I heard me, Brent. I don't think I heard Brent. Did you vote? You're quiet tonight?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Yo. What we could do, we have our public comment. I would like to go to executive. We're running later than normal, but I wanted to update you all on a few things. Wouldn't be too long. My plan would be we will not take any votes after that, but I would like to get public comment in. We have our regulars and some new folks in the front rows. But Mr. George, if you could follow the rules and. Keep us on here.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes, you're on. Don't break it this week, will you?
I'm not promising nothing. Geez, I'm trying to think now. I'd like to thank you first for getting that light fixed on
Oh,
Cherry and Graves.
okay.
6-month wait, but it was worth it. It's like
No,
daylight
don't-
there.
Don't give the wrong impression, George.
Well,
We
it's
only
like,
heard
it's
about
like
it last
daylight, so
month.
it was worth waiting for.
We had it done in 2 weeks, so come on.
On the Airbnb that you brought up, I mean, that really falls into a commercial operation, and it shouldn't be allowed in residential areas. And maybe it's a definition that you have to put in zoning as far as what do you define that as.
George, for folks listening that don't know, he chairs our zoning board of appeals, so he speaks from some more than sitting at meetings knowledge. He's, what, you've been doing that 20 years or something, ZBA?
Yeah, 20 years.
That's a good point, because it is a commercial use in a residential, but I don't know how it fits into that whole accessory use, you know, that.
It's a bit of a gray area at this point, as you know. Nobody quite knows exactly what to do with it yet.
Right, well, we don't even have two-family, I believe, in a lot of those zones, which you have because sometimes you got like an in-law living in an apartment in a building. But this would be total strangers and somebody every week.
And that's for most people, that's the largest issue, is that you don't know who's going to be in that house next to you. You bought a house, somebody else bought a house, you live there.
Well, you bought in a residential district and now you're living to a, Hot Sheets Hotel.
I know some people actually rent rooms in their homes, right, for Airbnb. It's not necessarily renting a full structure, it's just.
Yeah, but it's
maybe
operating a
portion.
business now. In theory, they should be reporting on taxes, and it should be,
Right.
fire codes and stuff comes into it, that sort of
We're
thing.
right there with you.
Yeah, and I think that's been, actually, the EDC has had the same discussions with some of the deans around here about, the fairness and the unfairness of regulations toward inns, hotels, B&Bs. So,
There are legal issues with creating definitions when you propose a new law that will allow you to then go back and catch the ones that are already there, in addition to any new ones that come online. And, obviously the easy way to go catch them is look on the Airbnb site. I was doing a little research for Livingston. There are 20 listed on the Airbnb site in the town of Livingston from Elizaville up. So it's quite a few. And, the definition of what is, and they're calling it short-term rental is the word that the phrase they're using. Do you regulate the number of times per month? Is it attended, unattended? Like somebody in your room would be, in your house, renting a room would be a boarder. And so you would have definitions that address different things. And so it's going to be a tap dance to make sure everybody gets coverage, but you don't hurt, sort of collateral damage with people.
Okay. The other thing, a couple of things more. On the sewer project, I saw you had the list of the property locations and names, and you're adding a few. I was just wondering, are there been any people in the district that you've got who have refused, specifically like a residential who didn't want to be hooked up?
No, we had one person who thought the whole village should chip in, and.
I run into that person, I think.
But we kept with our stance that the direct financial benefits going to the person with the.
No, I mean, somebody who's refusing, who's on that, in that block of, let's say, properties.
Trying to get in the door?
Well, there's,
Should be open.
there's actually New York State law it's mandatory hookup. If there's a sewer, it's mandatory to hook up, just like the water.
So then why would you be trying to sell it to them if it's mandatory?
We're not trying to sell it to them.
Okay,
We're
well-
trying to inform them.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't really like to work on the mandatory side of the world. It's,
But it is, and it'll be adopted under our local law too, so.
Okay. And the other question, it was a little chaotic before because you had several groups of people here, including the school posse. And it's the second year in a row where they really didn't ask questions from the audience. I'm disappointed the board didn't ask them what happened to the $11 million the state said that they had stashed. It's never come up, been buried.
Have you been to a school board meeting?
I have to get to one. I don't know when I really don't know when they fall. I try to catch the sign out front, but I'm not really that up on it, but this would have been a chance to bring it up.
Wednesday. I know they're having one tonight, which I think is a special presentation, but I think generally it's on Wednesdays, and I think it's every 2 weeks. It should be on their website.
I don't have a computer. Did they post it on the billboard in front of the school?
They usually do in front of the school.
You can probably call them up too and ask them.
yeah, follow up with them. The question I had was, we're working on a 1.15, and he was saying 2 point something, I wrote it down.
Right, and they also have like $11 million stashed in the bank someplace.
I think it's a fair question, George. I mean, they got admonished by, what was it, DiNapoli or somebody like that about, so it's a fair question, and I'm sure they'd answer it for you. Bruce is quite handy with the numbers, so.
Well, it's just been 2 years since we looked over to the audience and asked. I'm just wondering, and again, why no board members in the last 2 years have asked them that question. Is if they weren't going to let us ask a question, they want to just talk to you guys, they can go to your meeting on Thursday.
There's actually four candidates for school board too, which would be a good question for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it.
Your counterpart back there, anything? And then we have some new people in the front here. I don't know.
George, I'm seeing on the website that the next Board of Ed meeting is May 17th.
It's better if the camera can see you too, like you can
Sure.
stand half profile.
I prefer to stand when I talk.
We'd like you to say who you are since you're a new person to us.
Kathy Gaylor. I'm a village resident. This is my adopted home. I moved here about 2.5 years ago. More of a comment. This village is great. I've really enjoyed living here. I'm recruiting new residents every day. When I see a house come up for sale in the village, I tell all my friends at work. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think what you guys do is a thankless job. I know you take a lot of grief online. I've seen the comments.
Oh, yeah?
I just want to, say this is my first meeting. I've learned a lot about what's going on in the village. I understand the balancing act. I'm in the finance world, so I get it. But to remember to always keep in mind what the goal is that you're working towards. Because I think that it's easy to lose sight of that. So just remember to keep that in front of you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ed. Ask her where she heard that nasty stuff about us.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a Facebooker, so I rely on others. But anyway, we do feel we do excellent work, and we've got a committed board. We just had an election, and we have a new member. So we try to incorporate the talents of the new person. And we do is we run essentially a $2.4 million business, and but our key goal is the health, safety, and welfare of our residents, and that's from their pocketbooks to their true physical safety and we do tons of work to make it a fun place to live too. And we are trying to attract, from what I can see, people like you. You know, it's, we heard our assessed value went up a little bit this year as the economy recovered, and it sounded like the schools, bigger tax base went up, which fits with what we try to design. Is we want people to move here for the good things we have here in the Hudson Valley, and Red Hook included. And we work hard. We do a lot of work with block grants and funding. And later this week, I'm going to have the newly elected congressman here to remind him that we need these block grants, and we need certain things ranging USDRD money, and we don't look forward to any federal budgets that cut those things, because we're down the totem pole, and all we can do without these big funding grants is keep the lights on and, you know, pay the fire company the same amount every year, and different things that are harder for us to do and where we should do more. But it's so we're going to be pushing our weight to the federal level later this week, so it'll be interesting. But thank you for your comments. Like I said, I'd like to move to go to executive session for essentially personnel matters, and we'll come back out to close the meeting, and that includes motions to pay bills. I think everybody's looked at the bills. But we could retire to the clerk's office for a short amount of time, and those that want to wait, feel free to wait. The cameraman will turn it off and turn it back on, but nothing much happens after this, to be honest with you. We're back live. Yes, I see a red light. We're returning from executive session at, let's see, I show
9:49.
49. And could I have a motion to return to regular session?
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we had no more voting matters to deal with. And I would entertain that we pay our bills after audit. I see they've been moved up and down the board for audit.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then keeping with routine and history, we would, tradition, we would ask Mr. Kowalczyk to consider what comes next.
I would like to have the board consider adjourning this evening's meeting.
Think about that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cousin Brucey collapsed on stage.